I'd like to call this meeting to order. Amy, good?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we usually do a welcome. I'm going to get a consensus from the board that we can move on tonight so we can get to the large agenda. Is that okay with everybody?
Fine.
Okay. Jerry, Dick,
I'm
you
good.
okay?
I'm
okay, good. So we'll move on to adoption of the agenda. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Karen?
Second.
Dick, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Moving forward. We'll take the minutes separately, so I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the regular minutes from February 14th.
So moved.
Michelle, is that Dick?
Yes.
Okay. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion for the special meeting on February 28th. Michelle?
Second.
Karen, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Moving on. All right, we're going to go right into some presentations for this evening.
Yes, so we have a couple of presentations. We actually have quite a bit planned for tonight. We have some presentations. We also have some students who are being recognized, and I see a number of families in the audience with their proud kids, proud parents. We are starting with an English language arts update, so I'm inviting Ms. Parsons up to the podium, and she's also got some folks with her who are going to talk. So I'll let Ms. Parsons take it from there.
Great, thank you. We wanted to take a few minutes just to update you on the newest ELA programming that was approved around this time last year and has been implemented since. So to get started, the first presentation, part of the presentation is around 6th grade Readers Workshop, this is the first year we have Readers Workshop coming up to the middle school. And I'm going to hand it over to Miss Sam Baumgart, who's the teacher, and Miss Stephanie Colella, who is the literacy coach at Eli.
Thank you.
All right, so I am Sam Baumgart. I am the 6th grade ELA teacher at Eli Terry, and this is our very first year, thanks to the Board of Ed's support, with the Readers Workshop program. So I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit today about what that program looks like, what our students are doing more recently, and how it's been helping them to grow as readers.
It worked.
We're going to stare at this slide. There we go. So the Readers Workshop program has a number of benefits to it. Some of the most important benefits are, first of all, that program was already adopted at the elementary level. So we're carrying it over to the middle school, which helps our students be more familiar with the norms and the expectations of the program. They come in, they're already familiar with what the workshop model looks like. They know exactly what they can expect every day, which helps relieve a lot of stress and pressure off of our students. In addition, the workshop model offers a lot more independence for student learning. These students now get to pick books that are on their own levels, instead of all reading the same book that for some kids is going to be really high, and for other kids is going to be an easy, quick read. So that's allowing them to differentiate their own learning independently. They get to learn and pick what books are good for them. We're not always going to be there when they're at libraries and at bookstores to help them pick out books, but using this model, they can learn to figure out, how do I know what's a good fit book for me? How do I know what's appropriate? The program also allows students continued access to routines and rituals, and my favorite part, it's increasing their rigor and independence. This program is really nice to modify for students. It's a really great way to make sure that students who need a bit more scaffolding have access to it. We have specialized time for small groups to pull kids and give them more guided groups and learning. It also allows students who are already achieving goals, it gives them access to what 7th and 8th grade is going to look like, so they can already start working towards those areas. Yeah. Right now, we have access to 4 different parts of the curriculum for Readers Workshop in 6th grade. So I'm just briefly going to go over what our students have been doing this year and what they're going to be doing to finish out the year. Right out of the gate, we started out with workshop model. Our kids already knew the routines and norms, so we didn't have to spend time going over that. We started immediately with a model that talked about character development. So our kids had some time to look at how authors develop characters. They looked at what character traits were and how sometimes our characters who seem like really great heroes can actually have some less likable sides to them. So they figured out how to balance that out and how to see the good and the bad in every character in their books. They also learned about mood and atmosphere and how authors use specific diction to help build up that mood and atmosphere and why they do that. How does the atmosphere and setting of your book contribute to your overall understanding of it? Finally, we got a little bit into themes. Students learned what motifs are, and they started coming up with their very own themes. They started to branch away from some of the more common stereotypical themes like don't judge a book by its cover, and they developed some more obtuse, bigger ideas for their themes. And all the while, they were using text evidence to help them develop their thinking. What's really great about the workshop model, they always get to work in book club groups. So all of these kids got the time to pick what book they wanted to work with and pick who they wanted to read with. So they were piloting off of each other, they got to ping pong ideas and really help grow understanding at an independent level without me having to guide their discussions. Our second unit, which our students just finished, was all nonfiction based. In this unit, students had the opportunity to start out reading nonfiction chapter books, which was really exciting for a lot of them. They didn't always have the opportunity to spend so much time with chapter books. And after they read those chapter books, they moved on to some skills to help them read nonfiction articles, like newspaper articles and websites. This unit focused a lot on figuring out central and main ideas and how to summarize a nonfiction idea. The really big part for students was figuring out how to synthesize all of those texts, figuring out how after I've read 6 or 7 articles about the same topic, how can I come to a deeper understanding? Students in this unit got to pick whatever topic they wanted to research. So we had a lot of students researching topics like the Titanic, atomic bombs, outer space. We had diseases and illness. Some students looked at genetically modified foods. And at the end, they came together and they created a presentation to present to their classmates, showing off everything that they had learned throughout that unit. Currently, we are in Unit 3. We're in the middle of Unit 3, actually. This unit is all about social issues, which works really well with what our school is working to develop with the Thinking Kind program. In this unit, students are learning about a lot of hot topics like racism, classism, sexism, and they're having the opportunity to go back into their book club groups and read books about these hot topic issues. So they're reading books about World War II and the ghettos. They're reading books about the civil rights movement. They're coming to an understanding about how groups can be powerful and how sometimes that power isn't always used for good reasons. What's really wonderful about this unit is that it translates directly into their own lives. These students are starting to see how their actions can have impacts on those around them, and they're learning how to make good choices based off of the mistakes that their characters are making. The final unit we will have, that we're going to be starting very shortly, is our fantasy unit. We actually piloted this unit last year, so we're going to be revisiting it this year. The fantasy unit looks a lot at specific word choice, specific themes. It builds a lot off of that first unit and starts challenging students to think on a deeper level about themes, motifs, specific language, setting, and atmosphere. We get a little bit into archetypes, which is really helpful for students in the upcoming years when they're expected to know that information. It's also nice because Writer's Workshop ends with a fantasy unit where students are writing their own fantasy stories. This gives them all of the background information they're going to need to be successful in the writing classroom. I also have some pictures here. These are our students in action. This is them in our current unit where they're reading about some social issues. You can see all of these students are working on an independent level. These are all of the kids going back, working for 20 to 30 minutes on their own, reading their books, jotting down their ideas, so that at the end of class they can come back together with their book club groups and have a wider discussion about what they've been noticing and jot ideas down based off of what they're thinking. The other thing I wanted to show you was the difference in what our kids are doing, how they're talking about these ideas. So I have 2 clips for you today. One of them that you're going to see is a turn and talk. Every single day with the Reader's Workshop model, kids have 2 to 3 times in our main lesson where they talk to each other for 10 to 15 seconds about what they're thinking, what they're learning. This is a great way as a teacher to get a quick idea of how well they're doing, and it's a nice way for them to self-assess and see, do I understand, am I ready to go back to my independent work time?
shouldn't judge him on how he speaks or what he learns. He's smart and he wants to learn. He just doesn't speak their language. I mean, yeah, because he's trying to get to know other people.
So you can see in that clip, they were talking a little bit about some social issues where they were reading a story about a student who didn't speak English. And they were starting to understand the difficulty that that can possess because the student couldn't talk to anyone. In the next clip, this is a book club conversation. So at the end of every class for about 4 minutes, the kids have the opportunity to turn and talk to their group mates and just talk about whatever our lesson focused on. This particular day, the students were talking about what themes they were noticing in their books.
Theme that I had, it was don't judge a book by a cover. Crash thought that Webb was not the strongest, was not strong or fast, but Webb was the second fastest in the school, but Crash was the fastest. So he underestimated Webb about being fast and strong. Don't judge a book by its cover. Because Jane Forbes seems like a shy person, turns out to be a rude and outgoing.
I put the same motif, don't judge a book by its cover, because really thought that he really underestimated Webb. He thought that he was like a dorky kind of person, but he was really actually fast, and he actually was trying to be good for the world.
One of the things that personally I love about adopting that program is in those book club conversations, I don't have to step in. I don't have to direct the kids. I don't have to tell them to look back at their notes. They do it all independently. They carry on the conversation. They look down at their jots to help make sure that they're carrying on the conversation without any need for a teacher to guide them and lead them. So it's really helping them to become more independent in their conversations. Okay, thank you. I did want to thank the board for all of your support, because thanks to you guys and your support of this program, we've not only been able to send a lot of staff, including myself, to Teachers College for some professional learning opportunities. Thanks to you guys, we were able to purchase all of the units. Thanks to you guys, we were able to provide access to a ton of different literary resources. Our kids have more access to texts than ever before after purchasing the Reader's Workshop classroom libraries. And more importantly, it's really nice to have the support of so many people in understanding how wonderful it is to maintain consistency for our students between elementary and middle school. That's already a rough transition time. It's really helpful for these kids to know that coming into middle school, there's 2 classes where the routines and norms, they already know what to do. They know what those expectations are. So thank you guys so much for your support in establishing this program for the 6th grade.
So Ms. Baumgart has done a phenomenal job this year with implementing the workshop model. She's really spent a lot of time ensuring that she is preparing for her classes, in addition to looking through the curriculum that's written in the program and synthesizing what's there, what's best for her students, and how best to ensure that she's implementing it with her students. Moving forward, we would like to roll this out next year in 7th grade. So there are some units of study that have come out for 7th grade as well. And now that our students have built the capacity, we've built the capacity in them from 5th grade moving into 6th, we'd like to continue that as they enter into 8th grade. Additionally, we'd like to start looking at what we want to do with 8th grade. Where is it going to be a bit of a hybrid between the workshop model and what the high school model will look like? How are we going to help our students now transition and get ready to transition from 8th grade moving forward into high school. We also are going to continue our work that we've been doing with Ms. Baumgart and 6th grade reading, and also continue developing our writing in 6th and 7th grade. And really, Teachers College provides so many great opportunities, including the Saturday reunions that they offer, which some of us, have the great opportunity to go to. They have their workshops over the summer for their summer institutes, and we'd like to continue going to those as well.
Great. So I'm going to take over the second part of the presentation on AP Language and Composition. This is the new class that we added to the high school program of studies this year, and it is currently available for 11th graders. So this presentation was created by Karen Robillard, who is the teacher for that class, and I'm presenting on her behalf. I'll go through this fairly quickly. We will post the entire presentation on the website so you can reference it as needed as well. So one of the parts about implementing a new AP course is that there is a week-long training at Taft where the teachers go and they engage in very rigorous professional learning for the entire week, where they learn about the content of the course, methods for delivery, and start to really plan in their head what their syllabus will look like based on the parameters from the College Board. AP Language and Composition is a class that is focused on how authors create meaning. So there are pieces where students are reading essays, novels, and their speeches. There's a lot of work in the nonfiction realm in terms of just looking at newspaper articles and nonfiction chapter books, building on the work at the middle school. But also there's a lot of work talking about how they create meaning, and they focus on the logic to support the argument. So what text, what evidence are you using to support your meaning? The unit breakdowns here are, you can see the 4 units that are somewhat similar, that repeat some of the themes that we're looking at the middle school. There's ones that focus more on nonfiction, and then ones that focus more on fiction and how authors create their meaning. So what Karen is doing with the students is she's embedding practice for the AP exam and some of those core questions into her work. And she has some pictures for us here of students doing work. One of the things they're doing here is they were looking at song lyrics as a mode of communication and looking at what problem the artist was trying to address and what rhetoric they were using to get there, how they were communicating their message to the audience. So students were pulling apart song lyrics, making meaning, and then they were going forward and choosing songs to reflect meaning as well. Another piece of this was looking at abstract communication models. So how students had free rein to sort of create a model that would communicate to an audience how they communicate. So you can see here on the left there is a hand with some melted crayons, so that student was talking about how they express themselves through their art. In the middle was sort of a model that talked about kindness and an open heart and transparency with a glass jar. And then all the way to the right there was a light bulb on hennaed hands to talk about ideas that have emerged from that student. So you can see we're moving beyond. There is a lot of reading and writing in the traditional sense, but there's also a lot of creative ways here for students to communicate what they're learning. The most recent thing they worked on were logical fallacy skits, where they took a fallacy such as like anything that's red is hot, and they talked about what's the logic behind that and why is it not always true. So that's a pretty basic example, but students were going through those pieces. So what Karen shared here is that the students are doing really, really well with the growth in their writing. They're also finding a lot of evidence to support their thinking now that she hasn't seen in the past. And the students are really leading the discussion. As Sam was saying before with the middle schoolers, giving students the strategies and the techniques to start creating their own thought is really allowing them to be much more independent with the work. So, and Karen has also shared her email here, and if you have any questions, you are more than welcome to contact her directly. Any questions about the new pieces with English language arts that we've brought forward? Or do you want to add on to anything?
I'm in that class right now. I'm
Great.
going to well, that middle one, that was mine.
Well, please explain it better than I did then.
Oh, okay. No, it was, yeah, we had communication models because one of our units was how do we show what we know, and through us kind of explaining ourselves through pieces of like different art, we were able to kind of reflect that on how authors use different ways to kind of give their message and how we did that through our own. And I just wanted to say that like through the year, I haven't like realized it like at one certain point, but just I think for all of us as a whole, we've just become better writers in general. Like we know how to articulate more and how to get our point across in a more like professional way. And we've also learned how to elaborate our ideas. And she's done that very, as she said, kind of low key, where we don't really realize we're doing it, but we have, I think as a whole, we've become a lot better writers. And it's really, it's a life course kind of, because it's something that's we're really going to need for the rest, just like being able to write good.
It's a really important skill. And one of the great things about timing with junior year is that it's really also preparing the students for their college essays and how to write those essays as well. And the teachers across all of 11th grade, whether it's the AP language course or the standard English 11 or English 11 honors, are trying to where they can really bridge some of the connections in terms of content and topics that they're talking about, so those topics go across the entire grade, no matter what course you're taking. So I know that we still have our middle school friends. Are there any questions that we can answer for you?
Do you guys have any comments or questions? Yeah, I guess that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hart, you're next.
Yes, Mr. Hart would like to talk to the board about an annual trip that he takes. I think he has some students with him tonight to help sell the board.
Yes, thank you for having us tonight to present our field trip, and I'm going to turn over some of the information to two students in chorus and chorus and band, Melody and Daniela, and they're going to share a little information about the Great East Music Festivals that is scheduled to hopefully take place on June 1st.
Okay. So this Great East Festival is a trip for 7th and 8th graders to go to a festival to perform for a panel of judges, and we'll perform for these panel of judges, and they will score us on musical elements like precision, dynamics, and communication with the director and showmanship. And this annual trip with the 7th and 8th graders has been happening for over about 20 years. This provides an opportunity for students to prepare music beyond the level of an average audience.
So it's basically where we go to show the judges, and we can get gold medals, silver medals, platinum. About 75 band students go, 55 chorus, 130 total students participating, and it really motivates the students to work harder for a successful performance.
Over the past 20 years, we've earned about 15 gold medals, 4 silver medals, and 3 platinum medals. Earning these medals and performing for judges motivates us to work better in classes and to aim higher. The Great East Music Festival is an experience that provides an evaluation of our performance as well as great support of our program's educational goals and objectives. I think that's it.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Does the board have any questions or?
Any questions?
Wasn't this in Great Barrington before?
Well, so every year the locations change because schools volunteer to allow the Great East Music Festival to use their site as a site location. So sometimes it's Manchester High School where we perform, and then we go to the Six Flags as the second part of it. It's all part of the package. But this year it's at North Westfield North Middle School is the performance site, and then to Six Flags. So it does change location based on how early schools sign up, and also which schools allow the Great East Music Festivals to use their site.
Can you repeat the school again?
Westfield North Middle School in Westfield, Massachusetts.
Did that change from Manchester High School? Because I think that's...
Yes, originally Manchester was going to be the site. The time slots were filled, and so she had emailed me about a month ago, and maybe a couple weeks ago, and changed the site.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Any comments? Okay, I'd like to entertain.
I'd like to make a motion to approve an out-of-state field trip for grades 7 and 8 students at Eli Terry Junior Middle School to Westfield North Middle School in Westfield, Massachusetts, and Six Flags on June 1st, 2018.
Dick is first. Second? Okay, Michelle? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. There you go.
Thank you very much.
Very
Good luck,
welcome.
Mr. Hart.
Thank you.
Nice job, ladies.
Good luck
Good
to the
job,
two
ladies.
students.
Good luck with those judges. It can be a tough bunch. Yep, the next presentation is actually a presentation, I think, from Mr. Folds, but I see Mr. Nava here. There's a lot of people in the audience. Mr. Nava, you're going to be presenting tonight? And this is on a trip down to Washington, D.C.
Right. And Mr. Folds sends his regards and his regrets that he couldn't be here. And make sure to get the camera. I missed the opportunity to see this. The trip that we're talking about is the Close Up Foundation trip to Washington, D.C. The kids went on this past year, and we would like to go again. We were thinking of doing the trip every other year, but the response was so strong last year that we're going to try to do it every year if we can. This past year, 6 students, as you know, went down to Washington, D.C. the second week in November, and they learned the legislative process from within. And it's an amazingly strong program because they meet legislators, they actually work on Capitol Hill, as you know, and they come back very well prepared and trained. And to give you an example, today, you try in social studies classes to bring in current events. The Secretary of State was removed from office, and so we were reviewing that in social studies class. And you go down the line of succession to the presidency, and the Secretary of State is fourth in line, and Alyssa was leading the charge. Alyssa Ryder, one of the kids who went down there, she's just like, wanted to go ahead and teach the class. She knows her civics, and it really is amazing to see, and it's very gratifying to see students know things like that so well, and they get that from the Close Up Foundation. So we're going to ask the board to approve another trip this year. Mr. Folds will be the teacher going down for the week. Again, we're asking for the same week. We chose this week on purpose, twofold. The weeks in the fall are cheaper than the spring, but this week, and we'd like to do this every year or whenever we could run this trip, hopefully every year, is the week after elections, and this year it's midterm elections. So whatever the result, it's going to be dynamic down in D.C. The kids are going to get there 4 days after a new Congress is elected. And no matter which way it goes, it's a new Congress. It's going to be very exciting. The timing is unbelievable. So we were very happy that we were able to lock in this time, and we'd like to keep it that way from year to year. So I'm asking the board to consider allowing the process to begin, because it's a long process. We have to get the kids committed, then we really should fundraise because it is expensive. Then we have to do all the planning, of course, and then when we get back in September, it's a very short amount of time until the kids leave.
Any questions?
I'll make that motion.
You want to read the motion?
You gotta read it.
Oh, I have to read this.
We just want to make sure the motion is accurate, so...
You can motion, but you gotta read it first. It's all right.
I make a motion to approve the out-of-state trip from grade 9 to 12 students at Terryville High School to Washington, D.C. from November 11th, 2018 to November 17th. I'll make that motion.
Dick? Second. Michelle, second, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? All right. Thank you.
I brought this up to make it look official. This is actually nothing. I was taking notes for Nevermore. I have to put a plug in, go see it. It's fantastic. It is unbelievable. So tomorrow night, Friday night, Saturday night. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I bet you he stole some of your thunder, right?
Yeah,
You're
a
gonna
little
mention
bit. That's okay.
All right, so moving on, you want me to?
Please.
So we're getting close to making sure we recognize our students, but before we do that, we actually have a new face, somewhat new, on the at the dais tonight. Mr. Melnick is our business manager. As we all know, Mr. Penn started his new position in Canton, so he's the business manager for the town and the Board of Education side there, starting, I think he started March 1st. So Mr. Melnick has been on since that same date, and he had some overlap with Mr. Penn. So wanted to welcome Mr. Melnick and give him a chance to just say a couple words to the board so you can hear from him.
Good evening. I will keep it brief. I know you have a very full agenda, and I just want to say I'm really happy and excited to be here. I look forward to working with the board, the staff, and the community. It's been great so far. I've only been here about 10 days, but it's gone by very quickly, and I'm looking to working with you. I've got about 15 years of experience in this particular area of school finance, and the rest of my career has also been in finance. So I'm looking forward to working with you, and I know it's a great community, and thank you.
Welcome.
And just as a reminder to the board, but also to the public, when Mr. Penn was moving on to Canton, there was also a conversation with the town about should we look at a particular model that shares the business manager. And the board has said they're open to that, but they want to have a better understanding of how that would work. So there's a lot of work that would have to go into both the town side and the board side to decide how that could work. So actually, Mr. Melnick was actually officially hired by Ed Advance. That's how we were able to get him so quickly. So we're actually working with Ed Advance to be able to have Mr. Melnick working for the district in the interim. So that gives us some flexibility in terms of timing. If the town and the board was able to make some decisions, we could work with Ed Advance to see how that would work. But Mr. Melnick has gotten off on the ground running. He's doing a great job, and there's a lot to learn when you come into a community. So I can tell he's doing his homework and doing it well. So I welcome you as well.
Thank you.
So the next piece is we have a tremendous number of fabulous students who are in our district, and every year we get the opportunity to have our principals, through working with their staff and folks like that, identify a number of students who are given the privilege of being named a Litchfield County Superintendent Award winner. So it's a leadership type award, but it's much more than that. We've got very well-rounded kids who are going to be introduced tonight by our principals. So our plan is to have our board chair, assistant, vice chair, and our secretary go to the front here. Got a couple of housekeeping just to make sure everyone knows what to do. But we're going to start with Fisher Elementary School and Ms. Warhunski, and she's going to introduce her student to us. And just so everybody knows, there's a recognition dinner tomorrow night at Chatterley's in, I believe that's in Torrington, right? Yes. So there's a recognition dinner in Chatterley's tomorrow with the families and the students, and that's where they'll actually get a little plaque from Litchfield County group. So tonight's just an opportunity for in front of the community to have a chance to hear how great our students are. So, yeah, we can have. Yeah, why don't your students stand up near you? Have a little comfort level next to their principal.
They're
and then,
always taller than me.
and then once. For the students, what you'll do is once all these great things are said about you, you'll come up, shake hands, and then you got to stand here for a while. And then once we're all done, we're going to do a recess so all the board members can get into a picture and also get a chance to say hi to the kids, because you don't always get a chance as often to interact with our kiddos. So that'll give us a chance to do that. So, Ms. Warhunski.
Okay. It is my pleasure and honor to introduce to you Zoe Chapoulis, Fisher Elementary School's Superintendent's Award recipient. Her teachers describe Zoe as hardworking, who displays integrity at all times. She's a great team leader who listens to the opinions of everyone in her group, and she goes above and beyond to help others. For example, Zoe volunteers with our speech pathologist as a peer tutor for students in first grade. When Zoe and I chatted today in preparation for this meeting, I discovered that Zoe is interested in becoming a lawyer. She stated her parents believe she would make a great attorney because she always argues with her sister and can speak loud and fast. Zoe enjoys swimming in the ocean, playing softball, and doing gymnastics. She stated that she loves to be at Fisher Elementary School because it's a caring place where the teachers are helpful and the building is clean and safe. We are so proud of Zoe, and we will certainly miss her next year and wish her a lot of luck. Zoe Chapoulis.
You're doing great, Zoe. Doing awesome. All right, then we're going to invite Ms. Collins up to the podium to introduce her student.
Trying to give her the eye.
You want to join Ms. Collins? Oh, there she is.
I'd like to introduce Miss Hallie Strobel. She's not taller than I am.
Not yet.
This is what her teacher had to say about her. Hallie Strobel is a 5th grade student at Plymouth Center School whose personal strengths are as impressive as her intellectual accomplishments. She is an active, outgoing presence in class, and her caring nature and personality allow her to work well with others. Outside of school, Hallie is dedicated to her gymnastics pursuits. She loves to compete and spend time with her family. She is an insightful and deeply self-aware individual driven to explore her academic and extracurricular activities while maintaining a positive attitude. And there's one other little thing about Hallie. Hallie has some chronic things that she has to face, and most people would never even know it about her because she deals, she doesn't announce, and she goes on with her day-to-day living. We are very proud of Hallie Strobel. So go on over.
Now we'll have Ms. Suffrage come on up to the podium with her 2 students.
Hi, everybody. I am really proud to announce Katie DeForest and Nick Fusco for the Superintendent's Award. Mr. Holtz, you're getting 2 amazing kids next year. So, first, Katie. Katie's an 8th grade student. She's an outgoing, energetic, and passionate young lady. She's involved in community service. She's an active member of our Kids in the Middle. She collects donations for the Salvation Army and volunteers at the local food pantry. When she isn't volunteering, you're going to find her running on a trail or competing on the court or the field as she participates in cross country, basketball, and softball. Katie has maintained honorable mention status, and throughout the last 3 years, and she plans to pursue a career in engineering, which is pretty amazing. So she has aspirations to be an engineer. So, Katie. Okay. The next student, Nick Fusco, is also an 8th grade student. He is calm, friendly, and compassionate young man. Nick has met the criteria for honor roll as well these last 3 years. He is a 3-sport athlete, and he participates in cross country, basketball, and baseball. He's a leader on and off the court. He has participated on our teacher hiring committees, student on-site team, and presented at 6th grade orientations. In his free time, he enjoys snowboarding and running, and Nick hopes to pursue a career in business. So, Nick Fusco.
All right, Mr. Holtz for the high school.
Good evening. So I have one student that I want to bring up with me first. You stay put for a second. I will say that our team has had a very difficult time trying to find students for awards this year. We've just had so many. This class is incredibly strong. And so trying to identify a student that exemplifies some of the things that we're looking at in these awards is just a challenge. It's the list that we have to go through to narrow down has been very extensive this year. So standing with me, though, is Dominique Picard. She is a senior. You talked about well-rounded students, Dr. Semmel, and I think you'd appreciate most of her resume. She has been a section leader in the band, saxophone, not trumpet.
It's okay. It's all right.
Been a 4-year softball player, very involved in our community, Fresh Start mentor, Leo Club member, very involved with our community service through church. She's going to be planning on going off to Arizona State University. Family's moving over to the warm. So all these snow days, Dr. Semmel's college, it's done.
Done.
And she's looking to major in nursing, which is something she had already experimented a little bit with through our Bristol internship. She's luckily been an intern in our guidance department this year. And people say things like she's highly committed, very just dynamic, and more responsible for and mature than many kids her age. So we're very proud of Dominique. We're going to miss her, and we wish her the best of luck. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Perkins to come up to help with the recognition of the next student. It's not too often that you get to see quite a bond between kind of a mentor, adult, and a student. And I think the impact that the student and the mentor together have had on each other over the last 4 years, I just think it would be far more meaningful if Mr. Perkins could introduce the next student.
Set the bar high for what I've got to say. But luckily, since it's about Hunter Lombard, it's easy to say great things. Hunter represents the type of outcome that we hope for all of our students as they approach the end of their senior year. Hunter is represents growth across the board, from freshman year to today. An entirely different human being stands in front of you, and it's because of the efforts he's made. Hunter came to work with me and worked with a lot of things through they're like, hey, Hunter, you might like this. Go see Mr. Perkins. And I was like, Hunter, of course we got something for you. Come on in. And Hunter said, well, I don't want something. I want it all. And Hunter is in the Leo Club. He's an internal intern. He works with the video and tech crew. Normally he'd be here at the camera, or he'd be in the auditorium with dress rehearsal. He's involved in the community. He holds down a job. He does well in school. Hunter is exactly what we hope for every student and every human being, a growth, and the ability to grow unchecked. And I can't say enough positive about Hunter, but I think the thing I want to leave you with is Hunter's grown personally, but never selfishly. Everything he's learned, whether it be lighting and tech related or through the Leo Club, even in his own work or in his classes or as an intern, he passes on to the people coming up behind him and standing beside him. Hunter is exactly what we're looking for in our future. Someone that is willing to grow and learn, but also pass it on to somebody else so that it spreads and grows. So, Hunter Lombard, everybody.
Go into a recess. What do you want, your paper?
Sorry. I gotta read the recess. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we are gonna go into a recess, so I'm gonna need a motion in a moment. But I'm gonna have the entire board come up, and then parents and anybody can take pictures, and then we're gonna have we have some desserts and stuff over there. So it'll be about a 10-minute recess. So I'd like to entertain a motion to go into recess at 7:45.
Yep. So moved.
Karen, Dick, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. All right. Board, please, and ladies.
verifiable, the 55 things.
All right, so I'm going to go into the superintendent's update at this point. First of all, as the students, I'm sure, are happy to hear, our last day of school is now Wednesday, June 20th. And we're kidding around that no matter what happens in terms of snow from now on, we're just going to have school. School will be open because we don't want to have. It's okay. We don't want to go any later.
Bring your toothbrush.
I say that mostly joking, but we really hope that's it. And we're hoping that spring actually is here or soon upon our doorstep. I do want to make a comment about insurance costs because insurance has been one of those things that I've talked to the board at the February board meeting. I mentioned we adopted a new budget. We had a final budget which we're presenting to the Board of Finance tomorrow night. And in terms of insurance, we're still working on this. So I mentioned the State 2.0 plan to you guys last time and the possible savings. And with Mr. Melnick coming on new, we wanted to make sure we really take a deep dive and look at the ramifications of changing from an HDHP, a high deductible health plan, over to or back to a PPO plan. We want to make sure that we understand all of the consequences, unintended or otherwise, before we would make such a switch. I will tell you that we recently, actually it was Monday, it had to get moved because of course, snow from Thursday the week before. But we did have a chance to meet with all of the union presidents and have a chance with the state rep from the State 2.0 plan, plus our insurance broker, talk through the differences between the current plan and moving to the State 2.0 plan. There was a few questions from folks around the table, wanted to make sure they got a chance to see different pieces of data. So that's being collected by our broker and being sent to them so they get a chance to see that. One of the things that we're facing is that you've been self-insured with your insurance for a long time, and now that we've had about 200 employees, and when you have that and you're self-insured, your claims can kind of be very volatile. So you can have some years where everyone's healthy and it's great, and you could have some significant drops in your claim rate, but then you could also have just a few folks get really sick, and you could end up with claims that are very expensive, and then all of a sudden you see your insurance costs go through the roof. So we're at that point where we're going to see some big increases and decreases. And as a reminder, our quote back from Anthem was about a 21% increase for next year. It was about $320,000 increase in our budget, even though we only came in with a 0.09% increase, which was about $24,000. We had to find $300,000 of reductions in order to try to get close to a 0% increase. So bottom line for me is we're still very much looking at the State 2.0 plan. We still think it's absolutely a possibility, but we couldn't bring to you a great recommendation today with full confidence that it's the right way to go. So tomorrow night when we present to the Board of Finance, we're going to bring the February 14th budget number to them. And I'll mention the same thing. And I see Mr. Kilduff, the Board of Finance chair, here, and I appreciate his attendance at our meetings. But I'll mention to them, too, the same idea that we are looking at this insurance piece, and we're hoping by our April 4th board meeting, we might have some decisions made. But we don't want to put anybody in we don't want to make a decision too quick, especially one that has such long-lasting impacts or potential long-lasting impacts. We are continuing to move along our process for finding the new principal at Fisher Elementary School. We're actually down to 2 candidates at this point, and I mentioned that earlier. Both excellent candidates, and they'll be interviewed by the board on March 28th. So we're coming close to finishing up that process. I do want to mention also that we had the Plymouth Congregational Church donated $440 to our schools recently, the missions committee, and I just thought it was important to highlight them because they heard that a lot of our staff was purchasing out of their own pockets snacks, especially through the nurse's office to try to help hungry kids and things like that. So it was really nice that they heard that story and they said, hey, can we help? And so they've been donating money now for the past 2 years to our school. So I sent a letter to them thanking them, but I thought it'd be nice also to publicly thank them and let you guys know that they're doing that. It is also Board of Ed Appreciation Month, and you just have a small token that was put at your tables. It's a starfish, and if you know the starfish story, you know about that story and making a difference in the lives of children. But not everybody appreciates how many hours of work you guys put into this volunteer position, because you receive no support in terms of being a member of the board, just the good feelings you get from helping kids. But you guys do put a number of hours into reading and trying to make sure you're prepared, making sure you understand all the issues so that you can make educated decisions. So we wanted to say thank you and recognize you for all the hard work that we know you have put in and will continue to put into being a board member. So thank you for that. Continuing, we do have the Board of Finance meeting tomorrow night, so we'll be doing a presentation to the Board of Finance. It's a chance for them to ask us questions. So myself and Mr. Melnick will be at the point of the spear, but we'll have a number of our administrators present to be able to answer specifics if they come up. I know most board members will be there. I know some folks have some things that came up, but it's tomorrow, 7 o'clock in the Town Hall meeting room. My monthly brown bag lunch is next Wednesday, 12 to 1. So all parents are invited to the brown bag meeting. We could talk about items that they want to bring to our attention, but we will talk about things like the budget, as we always do. And then I do have a final piece. I want to turn it over to Ms. Trinks to talk about our pre-K.
Our pre-K, exactly. We're still in the middle of this year, but as you're talking about budget for next year, we have our 2018-2019 pre-K classes shaping up very well. As we announced at our last meeting, the applications were accepted for that through March 2nd, so that's part's closed, and we had an increase in applications compared to last year, which is very exciting. We have a combination of students that are returning and new students that have applied to join us. A number of the students that were accepted into the program, all the students that we were able to accept into the program, were able to probably be their first or second choice. I think it was all first or second choice at this time. We do have 12 students on a wait list, though, for the first time since I've been here. But 10 of those were all looking for our school day program, and we only have one of the school day classrooms, and so that I'm not really surprised filled up. And certainly, if they will remain on the wait list, and we will notify them if there's an opening. They will get the information. The letters will go out Friday telling them who's on the wait list, who got AM, who got PM, and who got the school day. So I'm really looking forward to, and I did this math to make sure I was right a couple times, welcoming the first members of the class of 2032 and 2033. I thought you'd like that ending.
It's like my retirement day.
Oh my God, you're going to be so old. I don't even want to tell you how old I will be. How old are you going to be, Dick? I'm old.
Well, that's great.
I thought that was a nice
Yeah. And that's the end of the superintendent's update.
Okay. Any questions or comments for either superintendent or Barbara?
I just have one comment on the state plan.
Yeah.
Now, we will no longer be self-insured? Is that what you're implying, or?
Correct. When you go to a PPO, you don't have any of the self-insurance piece of it. You simply pay the premiums to the plan.
So does that mean we get rid of stopgap insurance too, or is that?
Yep.
Okay, so that whole insurance that we're now paying.
Yeah, because
will go
we
away.
correct. Then
Stop loss.
Yeah, stop loss. I was like, I know it's not stopgap, so I
Yeah,
couldn't
well,
remember the
yeah.
second word. But yeah, the stop loss is when you have a really high cost situation.
Yeah,
You have
there's a
secondary
threshold. There's a
insurance.
threshold, and once you get to that threshold, then the insurance company picks
Yeah.
up the rest.
And that's why that's a very important decision, because you get away from the entire self-insurance piece and you go completely to a PPO, completely back to a PPO. And we just want to make sure that's the right decision.
So will there be a significant savings for the unions also with going to this? Because they're going to a PPO and not with the HCSA?
I believe the easy answer is the answer is yes. We're looking at, instead of a 21% increase from Anthem in terms of our insurance premiums, potentially looking about at a 3% decrease from this current year. So if the board's going to pay less, then we believe that proportionally the staff members who are paying their percent will pay less also. We have not gotten those exact figures in, mostly because the state plan doesn't identify their costs until first or second week of April. So we're kind of caught in this. We don't know the exact cost of the state plan. In Plymouth, we do the budgeting process earlier than some towns, and so we don't always have all the information we need, but by charter, there's certain things that's laid out in terms of timing. So we have to come forward with certain budgets at certain times. But we don't have an actual number. We just have projections.
Okay, so it's just, right now, you're just speculating.
Yeah,
This is going to be the cost, and
right.
I'm sure your speculations are a little on the side.
Where we like to try to be conservative to the high side on
Yes.
those, just because you don't want to
You don't want to undercut yourself.
You have to be careful with that. Yeah. And one of the other things about the PPO, the state plan, is that you get locked in for 3 years. And then whatever increases they put onto those plans each year, well, you've bought into those increases and you don't know what they're going to be. But the same thing happens with the self-insurance. You don't know what, from year to year, what the, again, we're looking at a 21% increase this year. That's massive. That's a lot of money. And they're running, I think, on average right now, the state plan is about 5%. The beauty of the state plan is it's 200,000 members.
Right, the pool is huge.
The pool is huge, so the risk, if you will, is spread out amongst many, many more people. Where when you have 200 employees, the risk is...
Well, all you need is, let's say 10% to get catastrophic, and you
have trouble.
See you later.
Right. So that's why that's one of the positives of going to the state plan is the risk is more spread out amongst a much larger pool. It'd be the same insurance plan that the state employees have through the CBAC agreement and all that, which has received a lot of conversation as well.
Anything else? Okay, moving on. Student reps, Miss Amy.
Okay, so we are having our annual spring musical. This is the poster from the drama club. Everyone up here has one, but I just want to show everyone out there. This is what it looks like. The play is called Nevermore: The Imaginary and Mysterious Death of Edgar Allan Poe, and it is going to start Thursday, March 15th, and it'll go from the 15th to the 16th to the 17th, and the evening shows start at 6:30. And Saturday has a matinee as well at 1:30. Tickets are $14 for adults and $10 for students, and it'll be held in our auditorium here at school. The class of 2018 is holding a Yankee Candle fundraiser from now until March 30th, and that is a very good idea for some Mother's Day gifts, because that's when they all come in time for. So if anyone's looking for Mother's Day gifts, come and see one of the seniors. We would be glad to sell you a candle or anything else from the booklet. The class of 2020 is holding a bowling fundraiser, which was previously canceled, but it's now rescheduled to Friday, March 23rd from 6 to 9 p.m. And they're still selling tickets through lunch waves until the 21st. And tickets are $25, which will include 2 hours of bowling, shoes, pizza, soda, laser tag, and this is at spare time. Our PTSA held a Krabby Owls fundraiser recently, and it went really, really well. And we wanted to thank everyone who came out and showed support for that. And then also today in school, we participated in the national walkout, but at our school it wasn't exactly a walkout. What we did was there were 3 students. It was Jacob Tellier, Taylor Greenwood, and myself. And each of us read and wrote our own speeches, and we came out over the intercom at 10 o'clock. And we read the names of the victims of the Parkland shooting, and then we had a 17-second moment of silence. And it was a really powerful experience to be a part of, especially since I read something. And it just goes to show how connected and how strong people can be in a time of need. So I thought that was really awesome that our school decided to do something like that and really like show that we care and that we're willing to make a difference.
Any questions or comments for Abe? All right, Miss Bree.
So over the weekend on March 11th, our Terrible Band marched in St. Patrick's Day Parade in New Haven at 1:30. It was a chilly day, but they kept warm and performed very well, and they were given the chance to be on the news, which was very exciting. Our band had a great time as they were put on a show for thousands to hear and were seen on the television. And as of right now, they are still waiting for the results to hear if they place in their division. Some exciting news as we kick off our spring sports is our baseball team had begun pitchers and catchers training this Monday, and first practice is starting next week. For our softball team, they start this Saturday, and for track, they're holding a meeting tomorrow, and then they start next week too. As a school, we are excited to begin the last season of sports of 2018, and we have high hopes for our sports team. And for Booster Club, they're holding a fundraiser, Pamper Chef, and that ends March 23rd. And you can go to any athlete, and they'll give you more information in the packet. That's all.
Any questions for Bree? Okay, Miss Diana.
This past Saturday, the Leo Club collaborated with the local scouts, and we hosted a pasta supper at the Lyceum. So we had our Leos and our scouts working as greeters, servers, and prepping in the back. And there was also live music there, and our THS Drama Club, not to plug it again, but they actually sang a little bit from their upcoming play, and it was really awesome. We all got a little treat, so I mean, it made me want to go, so it was cool. And then on top of all this, there were a whole bunch of great raffle prizes, and so we wanted to thank everyone who came and supported because we had an awesome attendance, and I think it went really well, and looking for the future to collaborate again. On Saturday, March 24th, the Lions Club is hosting their annual Easter egg hunt with the Leo Club helping, and it's going to be held here at the high school, and kids from all ages can go and find eggs. And it's a really fun event, and we do it every year, and so we encourage everyone with young kids to come, and you'll have a bunch of high schoolers showing them around, and it's really fun. So the Spain and France trip is hosting a chili cook-off fundraiser on March 23rd, and you can enter your chili for $25, or just to attend, it's $5 beforehand and $8 at the door. And if you go, you taste kind of everyone's chili, and you get to vote for the best one. And so it's kind of really a new and fun event that we're trying to do. And all the money raised goes towards the busing to and from the airport, plus any miscellaneous costs for the trip. So our SAT prep sessions are coming to an end, which is a little scary because that means that the SATs are coming up. The whole junior class is taking them on March 21st as a whole. It's something that we do every year is kind of the entire class. And this Friday, we're actually doing one final long session to get in those last-minute tips and tricks. And so we wish all those taking it the best of luck. That's me. I wish myself the best of luck. And finally, on Friday, April 6th, there's one here. The Taylorville High School is holding their spring extravaganza. Students and staff will be doing different performances, like they're singing, dancing, comedy, all that stuff. And we're actually, for the first time, holding THS's Most Kangarooiest. So it's just senior boys and girls compete. They do kind of different things, and they're going to have a crown at the end. So it's actually, this is only for seniors, too. I don't know if I mentioned that. But, so it's going to be really cool, bring a little competition between the students. So tickets are $8 for adults, $5 for students, and free for anyone 65 or older. And all the proceeds from the night go to the THS Drama Club, along with the PTSA after grad party. So we hope everyone can either come and participate or show up and support.
Do you know where the chili cook-off is going to be? Is it going to be here?
I think it's going to be here, yeah.
Okay, just checking. Okay. Any questions? Thank you, ladies.
Nice job.
Okay, so next is our public comment. You have 3 minutes. Ms. Kalesa is going to time you at 2.5. We'll put your hand up. You can always come back after everybody else is finished. Please write your name and address on the list. And
Melanie Church, 328 Main Street. I have a question. From what I understood, the town was supposed to be working with the Board of Ed side on combining insurance. Where is that going now? As that would be a cost savings for the town also. And is that being pushed and worked on now? So by April we have an answer, or is the town side not doing anything? Because of the dire straits we're in, we have to combine services. And one of the most important is insurance. And, you know, if the town side is not willing to come through, I think the public has a right to know that they are not working with you. I think the plan is a win, because also it leaves a surplus of that money that was left over that was self-insurance.
Just to clarify on that one, just to answer that question, the town side has to deal with their insurance on their own. There was a conversation here, there was a question from Mr. Berbener, I think it was, about should the town side look at the insurance as well? And it's really not for the Board of Education to decide what the town side should do. They have to look at how it impacts their insurance, and that's not for the Board of Education to decide. The Board of Education decides on educational matters. So we're pushing in terms of the insurance because it may be a good option for us. If they decide to join the State 2.0 plan as well, we could potentially go in together as a whole town.
That's what I'm asking.
But it may not necessarily save us any additional money to join forces. But we don't have any control over what the town does. But I think they're looking at different options. That's all I can say to that.
Well, the reason I asked is because, I mean, we talk about cost savings, we talk about combining, and, you know, I, for one, would like to see that, and I'm sure a lot of my constituents would like to see the same thing, and see us combining things instead of having 2 separate. You know, the same thing. And I have one other quick question. When are you due to meet with the mayor and the council on possibly looking at combining the business manager, comptroller, director of finance, whatever you want to call it? I mean, you know, we need consistency, we need to combine services, and we need to save money for all facets of this town.
Yep.
And it needs to be joint efforts of all boards to start doing this.
All I can say to that is that I believe the town council might be having some conversations about that. I do know that they're looking at the financial software system. The mayor has already had conversations about the software system, and there was supposed to be a meeting, of course, on one of the snow days, and Mr. Melnick was invited to attend with our financial folks, you know, the folks who do the accounts payable, things like that. So there's some movement, but I haven't seen anything about an ad hoc committee at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
thank you.
Connie Capralis, Terryville, Connecticut, on South Eagle Street. It's well known that the state of Connecticut leaders have broken many financial promises to our towns and cities. I'm here to implore to all the Board of Education members not to do the same to the Plymouth taxpayers. You have chosen to disregard Board of Education guidelines set to achieve certain budget decisions. It's my understanding that the bus company's bid, which you accepted, was $145,000 per year higher than the rejected bid. This amounts to $725,000 over the 5-year contract. It's my belief that the accepted bid also had modified, such as additional monies will be needed for any and all extracurricular activities during required bus transportation. I believe the parts of the modified bid now read, all in-town field and athletic transportation will be charged an additional per hour rate. Any additional, number 2, Any additional work done in between AM and PM regularly scheduled routes will be charged an additional per hour rate. It's quite possible that these additional per hour rates could number in the hundreds. Where will this additional money come from to pay for the hourly rates? Perhaps the students will lose extracurricular activities and more support staff. The rejected bid included all intra-regional busing programs at no additional charge. Again, I repeat, at $145,000 less per year results in a savings of $725,000 over a 5-year contract. When last year's Board of Ed budget was cut by the state, an additional $400,000 to $500,000 was replaced from the town's budget side. The taxpayers should not be expected to endure such a possible added expense once again. Is there more to come? How fiscally responsible was this decision made with the deficits through the state and the town looming? Again, that amount saved over a 5-year contract is $725,000. The taxpayers of this town can only hope that someone will accept responsibility and correct this egregious mistake. Please do not break the trust given to you by the voting public.
So thank you for that information, because I think it's important to get that out there, because I know there's some misinformation, and you were actually, some of the stuff that you were saying I know has been put out there into mailboxes and things like that. First of all, getting kids back and forth to school is probably one of the most important things we do. You know, besides teaching them and all the safety pieces, the bid required that there actually be ownership of buses in order to have a proper bid. And I've been very nice about the way I've been saying that the other bid didn't have any buses, but I stopped being nice about it only because there's so much misinformation. The fact that the second bid had no ownership of buses requires us to disqualify that. If you pay attention to what the Board of Education has been doing over time, they've been working very hard to save money wherever possible, but they've been doing it very responsibly. And we have to get the kids on July 1st. Buses are going to be rolling for summer programs, and in August they have to run for the entire population. And the board isn't going to put that at risk, because once you take an actual bid and not choose it, you could end up having no buses running your kids. And we're not going to be scrambling and putting ourselves in that particular position. So the fact that that bid didn't meet one of the very most important requirements of owning buses, the rest of it goes away. There's no logic to the rest of it, because you can put whatever money you want into a bid if you actually have no overhead. You have no overhead costs. You can say what it's going to cost. We can't go off of, we hope there's going to be buses. And the other piece, just not that I need to go there, but it's not $145,000 a year. I know that's what's putting out there. If you look at the second bid, it's 143. It's like 72,000 in the first year, and then it starts to climb up a little bit. By the 5th year, it's about 143. But that's all really moot. It doesn't matter, because the bid had to be rejected because there was no buses. They try to save money as much as possible wherever they can, but they have to take care of the basic issue of getting kids back and forth, and they can't hope that there'll be buses on July 1st. We really would have loved to have more bids, but it seems, and we've talked to a few other towns around, in many places they're only getting one bus company to bid a contract. And so we love competition. Competition drives down prices, but that's not what we had here. And so I can appreciate everything you're saying, and I can get that, but I hope you understand the other side of it as well, where the board had to decide to reject that other bid and move forward with the All-Star Transportation LLC bid. And that's where we ended.
Any other public comment?
Pete Warhunski, Town of Plymouth, 19 Coral Drive. I'll start here. There is no misinformation. I'd like to review with the board and with especially the public, Plymouth citizens, some of the details involved in the 5-year school bus contract. Contract also covered Thomaston and Wolcott also submitted for bus bids on the same bid package. Warhunski has been providing bus transportation in the town of Plymouth since 1951. In Thomaston since 2004. And in Wolcott since 2008. Goes without saying, I know what's involved in student transportation in all 3 towns. I attended 5 meetings in Plymouth in regard to this bus contract. I also attended every meeting in Wolcott and Thomaston. There was a couple I couldn't attend. I had other people attend for me. So I'm very familiar what's going on behind the scenes for the last 3 months in reference to the bus bid. I know who's providing information to the board members and why it's being provided to you. Bids were opened. Let me know when my 3 minutes are. Okay. Bids were opened. We're only talking $7 million here. Make sure it doesn't go over a minute. Bids were opened on November 30th, and Warhunski was the low bidder. A couple weeks went by. I didn't hear anything from anybody. The 3-town bid, nobody calls me. Okay, let me go to my own town. Let me talk to our former assistant business manager, Phil Penn. I made 2 attempts to talk to Phil Penn and was told there's nothing to talk about. $7 million? Okay. What I didn't know at the time was Mr. Penn and Dr. Semmel, the business managers from Wolcott, Thomaston, and the superintendents from Wolcott and Thomaston, they were all busy. Talking to a law firm, trying to figure out how the Warhunski bid could be rejected.
Mr. Warhunski, can you please be very aware that when you're talking about staff, please be respectful to the staff we have here?
I'm not just saying that's what.
I just want you to be.
I get it. Sorry.
It's time to wrap it up, too.
In January, I spent a lot of time going to subcommittee, Board of Education committees, and special meetings. And from what I heard at those meetings, I soon learned we were back to small-town politics and lack of ethics. The meetings continue in February, and I continue to hear the same reasons for rejecting the Warhunski bid in all 3 towns. The lawyers told the 3 towns the Warhunski bid didn't provide, the biggest thing by far, was Warhunski didn't provide bid security to make sure if he does a bid and it can't be withheld, I cannot hold the bid, then the town takes all that money, $177,000, and goes to the next bidder. Okay, but then I told, wait a minute, really? That's a reason? Now again, this is in 3 towns. I'm not sure I heard
Mr.
that one
Warhunski,
here.
please wrap it up.
Excuse me?
Please wrap it up.
All right, so anyway, all right, I'll finish this one thought here. I notified the officials about check the bid specifications, check my bid that was submitted. And you'll see that the bid security was included. Oh, it was. Yep, and in the bulletin here, it's I mentioned here, it's quite astounding that the lawyers and the officials from the town don't even know what's in their own bid documents. It says to be continued.
Thank you for your time.
Next public session. Thank you.
The only thing I would make a comment to about that is that when you have a $7.3 million contract over 5 years, you do bring it to legal to make sure that what you're going to create is going to be done in the most ethical of ways and the most legal of ways. So it was, and yes, the 3 towns did certainly submit that because we're able to split the legal bills that way. So being as economically responsible as possible, and they said you absolutely need to reject this bid, and the main premise was there's no equipment. So I know there's other discussion being said about a check. The check was present. That was never a part of the issue. It was the fact that there was no equipment. So that's all I have to say about that.
Any other public comment? Is anybody else before Melanie comes? Anybody want to go before her? Okay, come on, Melanie.
I'll be just 2 minutes. Melanie Church, 328 Main Street. When there's a bid and you're rejecting one, and it's $145,000 or $745,000, whatever the amount is, did you go back and ask the other bus company if they would meet that bid amount?
Can I answer that question?
Sure, of course.
Well, first of all, that would be reopening the bid process.
You can ask, right where there is a question. It's like even on the town, even if you don't go to the lowest bidder, you can go back and you can ask them to lower theirs by that amount. And that's why I'm asking, did you even ask that?
I would disagree that you can do that. That actually goes against the bidding process. You're supposed to put in your bids, you're supposed to give us the best bid you possibly can, and then you select the bids from there. If you were to then go back and start negotiating the bidders against each other, that's not an open bid process. That would not be ethical.
Well, you are denying the people and the taxpayers on the amount. If the man has the treasurer's check, which is the same thing as a bond, the full amount, he has everything else. I don't know what happened in this. You hear 2 different sides. We'll never know the whole story because there's 2 different side stories. All I'm saying to you is it really should be questioned. Was it in the bid that you must say what kind of vehicles you have?
Yes.
It is.
And it's in the Board of Ed policy.
Yes.
And if you go to the minutes, everything is laid out there nicely for if you want to
So
read.
you have a copy of the bid specifications?
Yes.
It's
and
on, yes.
Yes, all of mine. Everything from the last special meeting, you can get every single.
But the bid specifications, what
I don't
went
know
out
that
to
we
bid?
posted that online, but in terms of the policies that we're supposed to be following, it lays out very specifically under transportation. There's a policy that specifically says you need to provide the specific equipment list. Specific equipment list.
Was that in the bid specifications
Yes.
is what I'm asking?
Yes.
All right,
that was.
can I stop by and take a look at that, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other public comment? Oh, okay. State your name and write it.
Jessica Collette, Ronald Road, Terryville. First, I would like to say you guys are doing an awesome job. I would not want your job. I have attended a couple meetings, and I'm kind of wondering where the stance is with the SRO coming back into the school. And also, a lot of the moms are talking about the lack of notification that we got, which I know you guys are doing the best that you can. But I think it's kind of important that you guys look at changing maybe, I have a high schooler and a middle school, and I found out, oh, hey, Mom, this is happening at school. And at home, you know, you want to know that, and I want to know it from you guys. So I don't know if you guys can work on changing that. I saw an email. I think it is up for discussion. But the SRO, I would really like to see it come back into the schools. I do own a house here. I pay my taxes. I'm willing to do whatever I have to do because I feel like you guys and our kids deserve that back in the school. And I just want to know, are you guys still fighting for that?
We fight for it every single day. I will say that that's a priority. We actually have the police chief here, so I know she's behind it too. I know everybody wants it. It's a matter of, it's not our side of the budget.
Yeah, to be clear. Not in our budget.
If we could just pay for it, we would, but it's, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's a union thing. We can't actually physically pay for the SRO. We want one, absolutely. And I know that's a big discussion coming up. If you want to know tomorrow night, you should be at the town hall. That's a very big discussion.
And I know, just to add to that, I know that the budget for the police department is being discussed on March 29th. And on March 29th, I believe they're going to make a push for that SRO. And we certainly believe whatever we can do to add to the security is an important thing to do. We'd love to see, you know, as much security for our kids as possible. And in terms of what you asked about, in terms of hearing, in the email that I did send out to parents, I said to folks, we need to work with the police department, because we call the police anytime there's any kind of a threat made. And I think we need a better protocol in terms of the process we're going to use in terms of communication, because from the school side, we thought everything was handled, everything was all set. And on the other thing I put in the email is we have to be very careful from the school side about sending out educational records. We have to make sure we don't say anything about a certain situation that could then lead anybody back to who the child was. Right. And if I said to you in an email, hey, by the way, there was a threat today, there's going to be 15 emails back, well, who, what, when, what did you do, what's going on? There's natural back and forth that a parent would want. So it's a difficult situation, and what I'd like to do is work with our district committee that has the assistant chief on it, building administrators, other safety officials in town, and develop a protocol so there's better communication between all parties involved and a real decision when we need to notify parents about what's going on, when we need to beef up security at because of a particular situation. I think that's one thing that's come out of this that I think is important for us to pay attention to. So we will be looking at that, and it certainly caused some questions in parents' minds when an article came out, and when I felt that it was a need to send an email out letting people know our perspective on this.
I think you'll find that the more you communicate with us, you don't actually have to give us details of the children. We know that they're kids, they're going to run their mouths sometimes. But if you just let us know, you'll have our respect.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Any other public comment? Going once, going twice. Okay, moving on. Okay, consent agenda. Oh, sorry. Well, we know unfinished business.
Yeah.
So moving on. Okay, consent agenda. Entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay. Dick, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you so much. Okay, new business is the first read, and
Yeah. Would you like me to take that?
Yeah, if you don't mind, would you take that?
So policy needs to be read twice by the board, and so the 6,000s, which is all on instruction, is being discussed. I do want to give I guess I'll call it a shout out to Ms. Kreml and Ms. Kalesa and Mr. Foote, who've read hundreds of pages of 6,000 policies to get it into a shape that it could come to you guys. So you all should have received a 6,000 series policy in your packet. And I also have to thank Ms. Parsons, because she's taken the lead on that, but she's also worked with all the administrators to get feedback from them. So it's quite a joint effort to take this size of policy. So at this point, you know, it's one of those things where if you guys have questions about the 6,000s, we can try to address those now, or at least know what they are so we can go back.
Yeah, I have a couple. Does anybody else have any before I start? All right, so it's under 6141.32.1. It's a lot. It's under
61.
internet safety, and it's B.
61.
This one.
6141.321.
Yeah. B.
Policy page three.
It's like under digital citizen.
6141.
Yeah, 6141.321B.
Yeah, policy and page B.
I think it's probably going to be something that's going to be quick, but my question is, it's under like respect classroom guidelines. It says users will follow the guidelines set by teachers regarding the use of electronic devices. So my question is, are we having every teacher is going to set their own guidelines, or is there going to be a standard guideline?
So there is, each school has their own rules and regulations around the use of technology in the classrooms. There is some teacher discretion, especially like around cell phones at the high school. Some teachers, depending on the activity or what's going on, or their own policy within the classroom for sort of like management, may say today cell phones are away, or they may say today we need them to participate. So
I guess my question is is it a written rule for each school? Because I want to make sure that everybody knows at each that it's standard and this is how we're doing it. Because if we're not putting it in the policies, is it a working rule at each building?
But my guess is it's going to be in the handbooks. It's going to talk. It does talk about the use of cell phones,
So
and then
is it
teachers
something
can
that
be.
we should say in C handbook or something? I don't know. It's just a question for me. I'm probably wrong about this, but that was just my question about that one. You know what I mean?
The only thing I would say is if it's when it is in the handbooks, the students and teachers do have to follow that, and the teachers can be more specific. Like I've seen, you see cell phone caddies when sometimes
Right.
kids go in, they have to drop their cell phone off into a protective area.
And believe me, I'm
So-
not against the cell phone usage.
Yeah, so I don't-
I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page on this.
I think this gives enough latitude to teachers to work within their teacher-parent handbook to get the job done.
And the next one is 6173. So it's like kind of way in the back. And it's under homebound/hospitalization instruction. So I went through when I was reading all of it, and it only says like IEP, children with disabilities. Is this also include kids with 504 claims? There's nothing about 504 under instructions and homebound. And I'm just wondering, should we add that?
in the second line, it says students who are unable to attend school for medical and/or mental health reasons for a period of 2 weeks or longer due to a verified medical reason as diagnosed by a physician, psychiatrist, or planning and placement team. So I think that opens it up beyond.
I just want to make sure that we're covering it, that's all. Otherwise, that's my only question. Make sure, does that cover specifically? You know what I mean? I just want to make sure that it's there. Is that understood by everybody? Like if all of us weren't here anymore and somebody else looked at this policy, are they going to understand that? That's all I'm asking.
The two paragraphs, the first one is the more general one.
Right.
The second one specifies the PPT because there are some different qualifications and requirements for medically complex. So the top paragraph is to account for any student who might need homebound instruction because of a longer absence or intermittent absences that are verified. But the second paragraph is specifying those additional requirements around the more medically complex.
All right, if you guys are good with it, I just wanted to make sure that everybody would get that. If it was somebody else looking at it, that's all.
I believe so, but I'll admit I live and breathe it so much.
Right, me too, but that's why it kind of like hit me. I'm like, oh, but we didn't like specifically mention 504s, and we specifically say IEPs. You know what I mean?
Would it be true, though, that if someone was on a 504 and needed to use this policy for a long period of time, it wouldn't be a 504, we wouldn't be talking about accommodations anymore. We'd be talking about a longer, you might need to move into the IEP process for most of it.
There might be reasons why you don't need to.
Yeah.
But as soon as you have a medical reason that's causing an attendance issue or a concern around,
Right.
you would take that medical piece and bring it into the 504 realm automatically.
So there's, yeah.
I just want, that's
So
all.
it doesn't exclude
Right.
folks with 504, so
Okay.
I think that's your major
Yeah,
question.
I just want to make sure
Okay.
it's covered.
Okay.
That's it, that's all I had. After all that reading. Yeah, that's scary. Does anybody else have any questions for him? All right, so we should get them next time then for the second read?
And I did say something about it being board appreciation
Yeah.
month.
It's your appreciation.
This is actually a third.
What it was.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Right. So when I talk about the reading that they have to do, what you guys get as a full board is a third of what the actual committee had to review. So,
And that's only the 6,000.
and that's just one series. But the beauty is, we're just about done updating all the policies. So you guys have worked hard.
Anything else for Series 6,000? All right, let's move on to the accountability index. Whenever you're ready.
I'm going to have Ms. Parsons walk you guys through the accountability index, and what we have is a handout regarding this accountability index for you tonight.
Sure. So as we're coming around with the handout, I'll just start by saying that the accountability index is a measure from the State Department of Education, and it's part of our accountability system to the state as a school district. It helps track our progress, helps mark our improvements, and also helps us identify where we need some support so that we can promote transparency and satisfy our requirements around reporting at both the federal and state level. So there's 12 indicators on the accountability index. There are several that go on academic achievement and growth based on our state testing. There are also pieces around our participation rate on that testing, chronic absenteeism, preparation for life beyond high school with post-secondary and career readiness, our graduation rates, our acceptance rates into post-secondary education, and then it's also rounding out a student by looking at our physical fitness and our arts access rates. So there is an extensive chart that, if you look at it, there's an indicator, there's an index or a rate, and that rate is our score per se as a district. The target is where the state would like to see us hit, and based on that target and how close we were to it, we earn points. So it's a ratio of our rate to the target. We have points earned at how many maximum points, and then they take that and do another calculation and figure out what's the percentage of the points that we earned. And the last column is the state average or index. And so that last column, if you actually compare that back to the first one, that's compared, so if you the bookends, you're comparing the Plymouth rate to the state rate. So that's a good indicator for us, is to look at how we're doing in comparison to the state, because without a benchmarking point, it's really hard to interpret a lot of the numbers. But what you'll see if you look through this is that with our academic indices, we are pretty close to or exceeding the state average in all indicators with the academics aspect. What the state has acknowledged is that over time, it may be harder to keep up the significant growth that we've made from year to year, because as kids get closer to the higher end of the achievement spectrum, it's harder to make substantial growth. When you're already doing really well, it's hard to get even better. So that may, sort of those scores may plateau or decline a little bit over time. You'll also see, if you look at this, and I acknowledge that you will probably need some more time to process this information, and if you do have questions, Dr. Sumler, I would be more than willing to discuss this further at a later date. But with the chronic absenteeism, you will see that we are below the state average, with the exception of some of our high-need students are slightly exceeding that. So that's our next point, is that we're really going to delve into that data to see what we can do action planning there. We've had some really great successes around reducing the absenteeism overall. Another thing that you'll notice is that in terms of the access to college and career courses, courses that are preparing them for careers and beyond. So, for example, 87.8% of our high school students are taking these courses, and the state average is only 70.7. So that encompasses a lot of our career and technical classes, as well as our AP classes, anything where it would really transfer beyond. And so beyond that, we need to look at some of the exam rates. So indicator number 6 is the percentage of students passing those exams in those courses. So what we've really focused on is a philosophy where all students should be taking these kinds of courses to prepare themselves for life beyond high school and into the college arena as well. And now we need to look at how do we help make them successful with the content even more than they already are being in those areas. So first we were providing the access, and now we're going to refine a lot of the exam pieces of that. So those are the highlights in terms of index. If you flip forward again, if you dive further into the data, each individual school has an index score. So overall as a district, our score was 72.2%. And you can see that there is somewhat of a small range with each of the schools. They also look at the participation. Do we have schools where the students aren't participating in the state assessments? And that is not the case. We have very high participation rates, which is something to be proud of. We talk about, is there an achievement gap? And the achievement gap is between the scores of the regular education students and students who have high needs. Not regular education, students without high needs, students with high needs. Is there a gap as well with those two categories of graduation? And what category do the schools fall at overall? So the highlights from this data show that Plymouth Center School did do very, very well again, exceeding our district accountability index score, and it was very close to 80%, and it fell into a category 1 school. With Fisher, right about 71% and falling into a category 2, and Eli and Terryville in the high to mid 60s, falling into category 3. So there's a lot to celebrate here in terms of growth. One of the things, the very last slide, will show you sort of, it's alarming to see that Terryville High School does have a yes for the achievement gap. But what you see on the very last slide is taken straight from the state website in terms of what are they looking at when they look at that achievement gap. And so what this is telling us is that we're comparing the non-high needs rate of success on the assessment with the high needs rate and looking at the size of the gap. So the second to last column says the state gap is the mean plus 1 standard deviation. So what that means is with the state, where's the mean, right in the middle, and then 1 standard deviation on either side. So that should encompass about 67% of schools in the state. And we're slightly outside of that 67%. So what we have is that for ELA, we were outside of that by just under 2 points, and for math, 1 point. So although it is something that is concerning, and we will definitely be paying close attention to it, we are not very far outside of that range that encompasses 70% of all schools.
Any questions, comments? Ladies, if you want to leave, we still have a little bit to go. It's almost 9. If you want to go back. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Okay, moving on to board member committee reports. Finance and operations.
Yes, the Finance Operations Subcommittee met prior to the board meeting and reviewed the accounts by facilities report for the month of January. That report will be forwarded to the Town of Plymouth Board of Finance. We also discussed a transfer. We would like to be able to transfer money from our contingency fund into our tech equipment replacement and early retirement into health insurance. And as it was explained to me, rather than a early retirement payout, those teachers would like it to be applied to their health insurance. So it's all the same money, it's just in different accounts. So it's not coming out of an early to retirement account to go into an insurance account that has nothing to do with each other. They're the same, it's the same money being spent, just on health insurance rather than like a cash payout, for example. So I would be looking for a motion to make that transfer in the amount of $37,167.
Coming from committee, it does not need a second. Any discussion?
I'll second it. I don't need it.
Do we have any discussion about it? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, Jared. Okay, student achievement.
The next student achievement subcommittee will be held on April 5th, 2018 at 6:30 in the conference room in central office.
Oh, the policy one? Sure. Seeing that Ms. Kremel's not here and she's the chair of the policy committee, just want to point out that they met on February 22nd, completed their review of the 6,000s, which you know, and the next meeting will take place on March 21st. I don't have the time here. I'm thinking it's 6 or 6:30. We'll get that out to the committee members. We're going to look at the 7,000s and any other policies brought forth by myself. And this could be a one-meeting series because it's a very thin series. It's the it's the smallest of series. So the board should be anticipating the 7,000s as a first read. I'm thinking at the April meeting, if not then, no later than the May meeting, so we can be complete with all policies by the end of the school year.
Great. Any questions? All right, I know there's no negotiation report, so we'll move on from there. We are at our second public comments. Again, 3 minutes. If you could put your name and full address on the paper, please feel free. And Ms. Colessa will watch the time again.
I wanted to go into a little more detail, but it looks like we're not going to have time. I don't think you want to have a discussion. So I'm going to name a few things here that are going to be involved. On this misinformation, that's what it was referred to. The public is being supplied with misinformation. I'm more than happy to answer any question on here. We're told where there's any misinformation in those 4 pages. All right. I also heard that the bid specifications require the bus company to own the buses. Is that correct?
Needed to provide an equipment list. The specific equipment list needed to be provided. Yes, the ones you
own the buses.
Yep.
That's not so, and I'd be happy to have that discussion.
And since you're asking,
I'm not having a discussion right now, and use my 3 minutes.
Okay.
I'll be happy to have that. Mr. Bouvier, Mr. Foote, they went in detail, trying to ask questions and detailing what they didn't understand. They made it kind of obvious. There's something of it. This was at the February 12th meeting. I can't waste time. Anyway, here's what I'm going to tell you. Then if you want to have a discussion, we'll have a discussion. That's one of them. There's no requirement for the bus company to own the buses. And we can get into that if you want. Number 2, All-Star Transportation did not list their buses either on their, which I have, did not list their buses. I listed that I will meet every requirement asked for in the specifications. All Stars bid, and I have it right here. You want to go through it? We'll go through it. did not do that. They didn't even list that. All they said is no buses will be over 7 years old. That doesn't even say they're going to meet the requirements. It's right here. Number 3, and we can discuss that too. Mr. Bouvier suggested at this meeting, before this meeting, we're going to have a cooling off period and do discussions, but that never happened. Nobody ever contacted me. Just like I mentioned, nobody ever contacted me. When I came to my own town, there was nothing to discuss about a bus contract. Number 3, All-Star qualified their bid. All-Star qualified their bid. I think this lady mentioned that. There's 4 items there that it was definitely in the specifications that what they qualified, they said they're going to charge for these 4 services. Those 4 services are worth about $50,000. Somebody wanted to discuss that with me. I am not exaggerating what it is. That's $50,000. So, and I also heard that what I mentioned it was $145,000 to the taxpayer. $145,000. That addressed the actual cost of the difference in the bus bid. If you add to this $50,000 on top of that, that brings you to $200,000 a year. That's $1 million a year for the next 5 years. I heard people asking, oh, gee, we don't have a resource officer. We're laying people off, and believe me, what we're going to hear from Hartford, we're going to be in the same position.
Please finish up.
And whatever. All right? So then, you're asking me to wrap it up?
Please finish up, yes.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to wrap it up. The other thing is this All-Star qualifying their bid. I mentioned it in the flyer. I know what I'm talking about. This goes to court. That bid is going to be rejected. Believe me, you don't qualify a bid. That's why you don't know this, but that's why you ask for alternate bids. You can do what you want. You don't qualify the main bid. This is going to go to court. That's what's going to happen. And I guess there is going to be no discussion. I'm kind of surprised you let the other woman come back twice and discuss whatever it was.
You can always come back after everybody else is finished, and that's why I've always said that.
What's that?
You can always come back after everybody else is finished. That's why I said, is there anybody else who want to talk before Melanie? You have 3 minutes at a time. Absolutely.
Oh, okay. I'll wait. I'll wait.
Bonnie Capralis, South Eagle Street, Terryville. I would like to clarify any misconceptions about Mr. Wachowski. I have known him for a long time. He mentored my sons when they were young. He's not a new face or a stranger to this community, far from it. Although he may have created a new corporation last year, he has lived his whole life in this town. His family business has built several miles of road construction, installed miles of water sewer mains, which incidentally are still functioning after 50 years. His old family bus business is now a different corporation, but his construction company designed, constructed, donated work to several athletic fields, playgrounds in this community. Your children or grandchildren, whichever the case may be, are quite possibly benefiting from this altruistic donation that Mr. Wachowski has done for this town. Mr. Wachowski has proven his dedication to this town and surely deserves your reconsideration in this matter. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
So can I say a couple more words?
You can have 3 more minutes, yes.
I had that discussion. I had that discussion at the January, not all you were there, at the January Finance Committee upstairs. My family donated in the last 50 years over $1 million. A lot of it to schools, the ball fields, the playgrounds, the skate park. I don't want to get into that. Just think of what an insult that is. Donated. I don't know how many hundreds of bus trips for people that the trips that the kids couldn't, they had no way to pay for it. Take the bus, no problem. Get off that. Bottom line is I have both bids. I'm not the one giving out misinformation. I am not terminology. I am not trying to infer that Dr. Semmel is. All I'm saying is you board, and that's what I started saying my first time 45 minutes ago. I know what goes on behind closed doors. I know why you people are being supplied with that information. I'm sorry, it's our town. There's $200,000 here that we can use. We're all residents. There's $200,000, and we can afford to do that. Give it to an out-of-town contract. Again, talk about a legal and an illegal bid. Believe me, his bid's gonna be, it goes to court, it's gonna be thrown out. What do you wanna do then? What are you gonna do? What do you wanna do? You don't think that's the case? I suggest you hire a different law firm. That's one of the things I suggest you do. That we hire as residents a different law firm, because this is gonna be a real problem. The more problem it's going to be. Anybody want to ask me any questions? Where my misinformation is, that's why I wanted to go through some stuff. Here's the way I see it. This is what I know. I happen to mention I was involved in all 3 towns. I know what goes on behind that door over there. I know why the Board of Ed and Dr. Semmel don't have the right information. And I'm more than willing, as Mr. Bouvier suggested, we better have a meeting. But, and time's of the essence here. Time's of the essence. I heard 2 things tonight, at least 2 things that are wrong. The guy has to own the bus stop? Really?
Your 3 minutes are up, Mr. Womansky.
Okay. You want to get hold of me, I'm around.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Going once, going twice, moving on. Board liaisons. Well, Melissa's not here, so we don't have anything from Harry's board. Michelle, do you have anything from Plymouth Center?
They canceled their meeting due to the snow.
Okay. Josiah.
There's a lot they went over. There are a lot of fantastic people. It's the first time I've ever met them. At the risk of getting anything here wrong.
Well, she's right behind you.
I know. At the risk of getting anything wrong with her right behind me, I'm going to breeze through everything that I have here. Apparently you know what? I'm not going to say that one. I think it might be a secret. I don't know. So I'll say the rest of them. I can ask you later if it's a secret. I don't know. They did, okay, so they had roller skating, and they did thank you notes for, I believe, the teachers. Apparently the kids, thank you notes for each other or the teachers. Regardless, the kids loved it. They had a quarter auction, that's self-explanatory. They are having had an internet safety speaker. Even parents can show up, but they're not allowed to talk because they want to make sure the kids are actually asking questions, which makes a lot of sense to me. Teacher Appreciation Week they are having, discussing ways to thank teachers, either are having or had. Again, I'm sorry for not knowing which one. Nominations and Scholarship Committee, they're asking for volunteers to read applications, applications for college scholarships for the students. They need a new mascot because apparently the current one is in bad shape. Going to have a PTA dinner. They talked about how to acknowledge staff to portray appreciation. 6th grade is probably going to Lake Compound, 7th grade is probably going to do a rope course, and for the 8th grade, they want to take them somewhere that even better than they usually take them. They watched a movie called, I believe it's called Wonder, where there is this acronym called THINK. I believe the acronym is true, helpful, inspirational, necessary, and kind. I think it's make sure what you say is that. Yeah, encouraging kids to talk to each other better. Overall, there's a lot of information, a lot of good people. And yeah, that's the report.
I do think that the quarter auction hasn't happened yet, though, so if you want information on that,
Yeah, it's
please.
Friday the 23rd.
Yeah.
The door opens at 6:30 at the middle school. Quarter auction begins at 7 o'clock.
Thank
I
you.
hope everyone can come. We got lots of great prizes.
Thank you. Any questions? All right. Mrs. Harris?
Terryville High School after-grad also did not have their meeting due to weather, but please, I encourage you to go on to Facebook, on to THS Project Graduation Gift. There's lots of good information on there about their fundraising efforts so far and how you can help them along the way to provide a safe after-grad experience for our seniors this year.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Foote, do you have any, did Melissa get you
No
anything?
report.
Okay, the only thing I can say is SEPTA is working on their scholarships, so the applications are down at the guidance. They will be due back to us on April 15th, so we'll be going over those. You do have to be a member by, what is today's date?
14th.
By tomorrow. You have to be a member by tomorrow in order for your child to be eligible. So that's going on. There possibly is a meeting tomorrow night. It all depends on if we have a quorum, because a lot of us will be
Right.
at the town. And I think that's it at this point. So
I'll go there first.
we better call you first. Mr. Lanier, Jerry.
As far as CAVE goes, I would say to assume that it was canceled last week.
Yeah. Tomorrow.
But I heard that it was Day on the Hill is tomorrow.
Yep.
About 8:30 at Bushnell. If any of you are going, I would probably, if you can, Will comes in as a state rep, I would hammer them. You know, I mean, I was asked as many possible questions as you possibly can because, you know, if Malloy has his way, he's going to cut some more. So, good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any last board comments?
Yes, I would like,
Okay.
can I comment?
Yes, absolutely.
I would like to very briefly just talk about the bus contracts that just happened. A flyer went around town, and probably landed in everybody's mailbox, that hit the Board of Ed and leadership for a lack of ethics. I guess the only thing I can say is defend why I voted the way I did, because there was 2 contracts. Apparently one was valid and one was not. One did not include a list of buses. If this had anything to do about finances and a lack of money, or one being cheaper than the other, I assure you I would have voted for the cheaper one. I voted against the budget because it had an increase. And I told the voters I wouldn't vote for even a penny in increases. Again, if this contract only had to do with it's cheaper, this is the one to go with, I would have voted for it. So I think that is important to have out in the public. It says in our policy that we can't, a contract is invalid, or a bid is not legitimate if it doesn't include the buses that are going to take the kids back and forth. Now, I don't know what type of, I read the entire flyer multiple times, tried to find or mention that anywhere, and it didn't. I'm confident that the ethics of the board were fine. I don't know what was happening in backroom meetings, nor does it really matter to me, because I know what was in front of us and I know what we voted on, and what we voted on was legitimate, as far as I can tell. And the one that we had to turn down, we had to turn down, because it's coming from somebody who would absolutely scrape for any penny that he could scrape for. So that's all I wanted to say, and thank you.
Thank you. Any other board? Couldn't even say that.
That's okay, no problem. One thing that I want to comment on is what Melanie said when she asked about can the other bus company match. In a private sector job that I had to bid on some contracts, especially state contracts. They will put in a disclaimer that says If you are a local businessman and you come within 10% of the lowest bid, you have a chance to match that bid. And that's usually for local individuals that are voting for something within a town or something. And they put that in to encourage local business people to vote on these, and put a bid in on some of these contracts. So yes, technically, there can be a negotiation between an individual, the two lowest bidders, only if it's with that 10% rule is put into the bid specifications. And like I said, it's usually for local businesses. So in the case of Mr. Wahunsky, if All Star had put in a bid that was lower than his, and there was a bid specification that said if he was in 10% of that bid, let's say he came in 8% higher, then he would qualify and he would have the opportunity to match that. If he felt that he couldn't match it because he scrunched the numbers and couldn't understand how that company came up with the numbers, then he has the right to refuse that. But that has to be put in the bid specifications in order for a negotiation to be done. So that's just for clarification on Melanie's, Mrs. Church's comment of how could you get somebody to negotiate, to see if All-Star would match his bid. But that would have had to be put in. All-Star would have had to be a local company from the town of either Plymouth, Thomaston, and or Woken. So,
Thank you.
and that's it.
Anything else?
In all fairness to Mr. Wahunsky, it kind of pains me not to see him at least have a shot at this, but again, as I said before, we don't want to be into a rebidding process. I think his bid was a little late, amongst other things. Mr. Wahunsky is a very honest young fellow. My wife worked for his dad for many years, and they provided services for years and years and years. So everything he said is pretty much true about that sort of thing. But it does pain me not to be able to honor that. But I think it was too little too late. So.
Anything else? Anybody else? Anything? All right, my final board comments are, I'd like to thank the readers and Readers and Writers Workshop presentation and the AP Language and Composition. Thank you for that presentation. I want to congratulate every superintendent award winner. We're so excited that they're here, and I hope they have a good time tomorrow at their event. I can't wait to hear about the St. Patrick's Day Parade because we've done it 2 years in a row. Our fingers crossed. Hopefully we won. And I'd like to thank everybody who came out tonight to speak. We do hear everything you said. I hope that we were open as much as we could, back and forth. And then the only other thing I have to mention is next month's meeting is a special meeting. It is April 4th here at the cafeteria at the Terryville High School at 7 o'clock. Again, it's April 4th, it's not the following week, so just be prepared to put that into your calendar. But also, don't forget that the week before the 28th, we will be having a special meeting to talk about the principal at the Fisher. Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn. So, Michelle?
Second.
Josiah, all in favor? Aye. 20 after.